Hello friends, how are you all doing? Today we'll look at a crazy engineer who, in an attempt to impress his girlfriend, builds a completely artificial island in international waters, right in the middle of the sea. Later he introduces his own language, laws, and even a new currency on that island, aiming to turn it into an independent country. At one time that island became the most free place on Earth, where no country's rules applied. Anyone could do whatever they wanted there. And this isn't a fictional story. Back in 1967, an Italian man named Giorgio Rosa actually did this. Today's film, Rose Island, released in 2020 with an IMDb rating of 7, is based on this true story. At the start of the story, we see Giorgio Rosa. He goes to meet some officers from the European Council carrying an important file. Initially, the officers didn't want to speak to him, but they noticed some United Nations documents in his file. Seeing papers from such a significant organization, they agree to hear him out. Giorgio then begins to explain his problem. He built an island on the international border in the middle of the sea and now wants to declare it as an independent nation. But the Italian government wants to destroy the island, and he's come to ask for help to save it. At first, the officers think Giorgio is crazy and laugh at him. Then Giorgio begins to explain how he built the island, and we are taken 1 year back in time. A year ago, Giorgio and his friends were partying at a pub to celebrate finishing their engineering degrees. During the party, Giorgio sees his ex-girlfriend, Gabriella. They start talking, and we learn that they were in love 3 years ago, but broke up due to a mistake on Giorgio's part. Despite the years, Giorgio still loves her. After the party, Giorgio offers to take Gabriella home in a strange car he built himself. On the way, the police stop them because the car has no number plate. Giorgio explains that it's his college final year project, so it's not registered. The police then recognize him as the same guy who had earlier tried to fly an unregistered plane. Because of that, Giorgio had already been banned from operating vehicles or aircraft. The police try to confiscate his car, and he resists, leading to his arrest. Although the next morning Giorgio's father came and bailed him out of the police station, on the way home, he scolded Giorgio and told him to stop doing all these absurd and reckless things. He advised him to find a decent job, like any other regular person. But Giorgio wasn't willing to listen. He wanted to do something different, something in his own way. After getting out of jail, Giorgio immediately went to meet Gabriella. Gabriella was a law school teacher by profession. When she saw Giorgio, she got very angry. She said, "Because of you, I had to go to the police station yesterday. That could have completely ruined my career." Giorgio replied, "I'm really sorry for what happened last night. If you can, please forgive me." Gabriella told him, "From now on, stop doing these wild and pointless things and learn to live like a normal person. You think you're some kind of genius, but you're really not. And if you can't live by the rules of this world like everyone else, then maybe you should go create a world of your own." Saying this, she stormed off, leaving Giorgio behind in anger. 3 months later, we see that Giorgio, perhaps influenced by what Gabriella said, had taken up a job as a mechanic at a small motorcycle racing company. But he didn't enjoy the work at all. One day during a race, he made a mistake that caused an accident involving one of the company's bikes. As a result, he was fired from the job. Amid all this, one day, he noticed a poster from a company about building oil refineries in the middle of the sea. Seeing that poster sent him deep into thought. Meanwhile, we are introduced to Giorgio's friend Maurizio. Maurizio helped his father run the family business, but he didn't enjoy that work either. One day, Giorgio went to visit him and said, "I have an idea. I want to build an island in the middle of the sea, outside national borders. It will be completely ours. There, we can do whatever we want, however we want." At first, Giorgio thought he could build the island using sand, soil, and rocks. But soon he realized that method was completely impractical. After giving it some thought, he came up with a better solution. He decided to model their island after how oil platforms were constructed in the middle of the sea. Once the island was built, they could live freely there, without having to follow any national laws. Hearing this, Maurizio immediately agreed. He said, "I hate helping my father with his business. Once we finish building the island, I'll quit and move there permanently." After that, they both went out to sea and started studying how large oil refineries and offshore platforms were built. After extensive research, they discovered that such platforms usually cost millions of dollars to construct, something far beyond what they could afford. So they had to figure out a way to do it as cheaply as possible. Eventually, Giorgio came up with a low-cost solution. He decided to build the island using large hollow steel pipes. They floated the pipes out into the sea and transported them to a specific location. Then, once they reached a proper distance from the Italian coast, they opened the tops of the pipes and began filling them with water. As the pipes filled, they sank vertically and remained upright on the seabed. Using this technique, they were able to build a 400 square meter platform in the middle of the sea, using only water-filled steel poles at a fraction of the usual cost. They built this island 6 nautical miles, 10 kilometers, from the Italian coast, which placed it right in international waters. You see, every country's maritime boundary extends up to 10 kilometers or 6 nautical miles from its shore. Beyond that lies international waters, which no country has jurisdiction over, a completely free and independent zone. That's exactly why Giorgio and Maurizio decided to build their island there, so no government, including the Italian one, could claim authority over it. Once the island was constructed, the first thing they did was arrange for a source of fresh water. They used a huge drilling machine to dig into the seabed for 3 continuous days. Eventually, they succeeded in creating a supply of drinking water on the island. This achievement made both Giorgio and Maurizio extremely happy. Now that they had water, Giorgio decided to spend the night alone on the island, enjoying the peaceful beauty of the open sea. But that night, a massive storm rolled in while Giorgio was there by himself. At first, he was terrified, but then he noticed a man steering a boat toward the island through the storm. To help him escape the storm, Giorgio invited the man to take shelter on the island. Later, we learned that this man's name was Pietro Bernardini. He had been roaming the seas for months in his boat, living like a nomad. After arriving on the island, he decided to stay permanently. Eventually, he became the first official citizen of the island. On the other hand, we are introduced to a man named Rudy Newman. Rudy was a German citizen and had once served in the German army. In 1943, he was forcibly sent from Germany to Italy to fight in the war. But after arriving in Italy, one night he escaped from his army camp and went into hiding along the Italian seaside far from the front. Since Rudy had deserted the war, his German citizenship was revoked, meaning he could never return to his homeland. From that point on, he stayed in Italy and started working at a bar near the sea. Rudy had a strong desire to one day open his own bar or nightclub, but at that time in Italy, foreign nationals were not allowed to open bars. And having lost his German citizenship, he couldn't return to Germany to pursue that dream either. Taking advantage of Rudy's helplessness, his bar owner treated him very badly, making him work long hours under harsh conditions. In the midst of all this, one day Rudy heard about the island Giorgio and Maurizio had built. Since the island was located in international waters, outside Italy's jurisdiction, Rudy realized he could legally open a bar there without needing any kind of permission from the Italian government. So Rudy made his way to the island to talk to Giorgio and Maurizio. By then, Giorgio had already built several small rooms on the island for people to live in. Rudy told them, "Since this island doesn't fall under the laws of any country, and you don't need to follow any national regulations, I want to open a bar here. That way anyone who visits can drink, dance, and enjoy themselves freely." Hearing this, Giorgio and Maurizio agreed to Rudy's plan. From then on, Rudy began promoting the island to people across Italy. Gradually, as word spread, many people from across Italy began visiting the island to relax and have fun. Within a few months, news of the island spread beyond Italy and reached the rest of Europe. Tourists from other European countries also started coming to visit. At that time, in May of 1968, there was widespread civil unrest in France. French citizens were demanding complete freedom and protesting against their government. Many cities in France were burning in flames due to these uprisings. To escape all the chaos, many people began flocking to Giorgio's island, where they could experience complete freedom. On that island, people could do whatever they wanted, with no laws, no restrictions, and no one to stop them. In this way, by running a bar business on the island, they were earning quite a bit of money. As several months passed, they eventually gave their island a name. Rose Island. Since people from different countries around the world were now visiting, they created their own language to communicate with everyone. They called it Esperanto. Gradually, within the next few months, they also set up their own postal service and even introduced their own currency. After this, news about Rose Island started appearing in newspapers all over the world. As a result, the island became increasingly popular across the globe. Amid all this, a 19-year-old girl named Franca came to work at the bar on the island. Franca was pregnant, but she had so many boyfriends that she didn't know who the father of the child was. To avoid having to answer that question to anyone, she completely left her country and decided to live permanently on the island. By running the bar business on Rose Island, Giorgio and his friends were now making good money. Life was going really well for them. One day, unexpectedly, Giorgio's ex-girlfriend, Gabriella, came to visit the island. Giorgio was very happy to see her. He thought maybe Gabriella had finally come to stay with him in this new world he had built. But Gabriella said, "I'm getting married in a few months. After that, I won't be able to see you anymore. So I came here one last time to say goodbye." Hearing this, Giorgio was shocked. He said, "But I built this entire place for you. I want you to live in this world I've created." To that, Gabriella replied, "You call this your world? This is just a glorified beach club or a disco. People come here, drink, dance, and leave. It's nothing more than that." Saying this, she walked away and left. Those words hit Giorgio hard. After hearing them, he made up his mind. He would declare Rose Island an independent country so that the world would take it more seriously and show it the respect it deserved. To make this official, Giorgio wrote a letter to the United Nations headquarters requesting recognition of their island as a new nation. Because the island was located just off the coast of Italy, the UN forwarded the letter to the Italian government. After receiving this news, the Italian government sent 2 senior officials to inspect the island. However, once they arrived, they were so charmed by the freedom and atmosphere of the island that instead of writing a report, they spent the next 2 days drinking, dancing, and partying on Rose Island. Eventually, the issue of Rose Island was raised in the Italian parliament. After understanding the full situation, the Italian government strongly opposed the idea of granting independence to Rose Island, especially since it was located just 10 kilometers from the Italian coast. To turn public opinion against Rose Island, the government began spreading negative information through news channels and newspapers. They claimed that since there were no laws on the island, it could easily become a hub for criminal activities. They warned that terrorists and dangerous criminals from all over the world might use the island as a hiding place. Therefore, the Italian government announced they would never allow it to become an independent country. But ironically, this controversy made Rose Island even more famous. Even more people around the world started learning about it. Many people from different countries began writing letters to Giorgio and his friends, requesting citizenship. From that point on, everyone began calling Giorgio the president of Rose Island. But this entire situation made Giorgio's parents very worried. One day, his father asked him, "Are you making money illegally from that Rose Island in any way?" Giorgio replied, "We're not doing anything wrong, and besides, we're an independent country. We decide what's legal and what's not." Hearing this, his father became very displeased with him. A few days later, 2 senior officials from the Italian government came to Giorgio and told him to shut down Rose Island and return to Italy. To persuade him, they offered so much money that he wouldn't be able to spend it all in 3 generations. They also promised to build 2 bars for him along the beach in the city. But Giorgio flatly refused their offer. He had no intention of shutting down the island he had built with his own hands. On the other hand, not just the Italian government, but now the Italian church had also turned against Rose Island. The church believed that people on Rose Island had too much freedom and were engaging in behavior that violated their religion and culture. Meanwhile, thousands of Italians began writing letters to the Italian government, stating that they wanted to renounce their Italian citizenship and instead become citizens of Rose Island. After learning about this, the Italian government became determined to shut Rose Island down by any means necessary. They assigned a senior minister the task of dismantling the island. In order to weaken Giorgio, government officials conspired to get his father fired from his job. At the same time, they tempted Giorgio's friends with large sums of money and valuable offers. As a result, one by one, all his friends left Rose Island. Now, only Giorgio and Maurizio remained, the two people who had built the island with their own hands. Feeling deeply disheartened, Giorgio went to see his parents. He told his father, "You lost your job because of me, and I'm really sorry. Now, even my friends have left me. I'm thinking maybe I should accept defeat and take the money and offers the government is giving me." To this, his father replied, "I never once took a day off from my job. I always worked with complete dedication. I never cut corners or slacked off. But still, without any reason, they fired me. I worked hard to educate you and raise you, and now I don't want to see you give up so easily. Say no to those government people and do what you truly want to do." Inspired by his father's words, Giorgio decided to fight back. He approached Gabriella for help, as she was a successful lawyer. Giorgio wanted her to represent him against the government, but Gabriella refused. With no other option, Giorgio went alone to the European Council, where he appealed to have Rose Island declared a sovereign country. This was the moment we saw at the very beginning of the story. After hearing everything, the European Council decided to help Giorgio. However, it would take some time before a final decision could be made. Meanwhile, when the Italian government learned that Giorgio had taken the matter to the European Council, they were furious. An Italian minister called Giorgio and began threatening him. But Giorgio confidently replied, "You can't harm me anymore. Tomorrow the European Council will review the documents for Rose Island, and soon after it will be declared an independent nation." The minister, enraged, shouted, "Before your island is recognized as a country, I'll destroy it with the military. If you have the power, try to save it." Hearing this, Giorgio rushed back to save his island. At the same time, the Italian government sent a massive warship toward Rose Island. Every news channel began broadcasting the news that Rose Island was on the verge of being destroyed. When Gabriella saw this, she decided to help Giorgio and save Rose Island. That very night, she joined Giorgio on the island. They were the only two people there. Gabriella said, "I know you built this island for me, and I know how much it means to you." Saying this, she hugged Giorgio tightly. After spending the night together, they woke up the next morning to see the massive warship approaching the island. The news spread across the country instantly. Giorgio's remaining friends, upon hearing the news, rushed back to the island to help save it. They all stood bravely in front of the warship. To intimidate them, several missiles were fired near the island. Although terrified, they did not move. Finally, soldiers came ashore, forcefully removed them from the island, and planted powerful explosives, reducing Rose Island to rubble. Giorgio and his friends were devastated. Maybe if they had a few more days, Rose Island could have officially become a country. Though its existence was brief, the legacy of Rose Island will forever remain in history as a symbol of rebellion and freedom. In the aftermath, to prevent anything like this from happening again, the UN extended the maritime boundary of international waters from 6 to 12 nautical miles, over 20 kilometers. Since the seas are much deeper at that distance, no one has attempted anything similar since. To this day, the destruction of Rose Island remains Italy's first and only military action against a foreign nation. After this event, Giorgio and Gabriella got married and spent the rest of their lives together. At the very end of the film, we see a real photograph of them, and that is where the story ends. So that's it for today's video. Let us know in the comments how you liked it. If you enjoyed it, give it a like. If not, feel free to dislike. See you in the next video.